All right. Well, good morning to everyone. Not good morning, good afternoon. My name is Justin Stephen Ford. I will be your host and your MC for about the next 30-45 minutes. This is JustinTIME for StoryTime. And I'm really excited. We are on a mission today and every day to really create a children's book community. So whether you are a children's book writer, an author, an illustrator, a creative, or you just want to find your next book for your child or a friend, this is a one-stop shop. It's going to be full of tips. It's going to be full of networking. It's going to be full of ideas for you to get started on your book to change the world. Like we say here, just in time for story time, one book at a time, we're changing the world. So without further ado, let's do it. You're just in time for story time. So I'm going to go ahead and invite our guest star, superstar up right now and get started. I see it here.
Hey,
Hello.
I'm doing
I'm good. How are
good,
you
good.
today? Good. It's so,
Yeah.
You know what? I'll get started in the interview. I'm really excited. I'm going to intro you really quick, give you a little intro, and then we're going to dive right into it. Okay. So our first guest is a two-time best-selling author, entrepreneur, and motivational speaker. She has worked with CBS Early Show, 48 Hours, BET 106 in Park, and the CBS Evening News with our girl, Katie Couric. In 2020, she published her debut children's book, It's in You, a book for big dreamers, which became an Amazon bestseller in 2 months and received outstanding reviews. In her spare time, she enjoys mentoring other writers and spending time with her husband and beautiful children. Please welcome to Just in Time for Story Time, Sharifa Anozie, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. So good. It's good to see you in person because
I
we were
know.
clubhousing it for a while.
I know. It's so a little backstory, Sharif. I have to give you credit because I'm doing this because of you are a huge influence as to why this is even happening. So backstory is I started to write my book, I See Me, had no clue what to do. And this was, what was this, 2021? I think when Clubhouse, there was an app called Clubhouse, and we were all, hanging out during the pandemic. And Sharifa had this awesome group for children's book writers, and she had so many great tips and so many great suggestions and being able to network. And it was a great resource and platform, which we'll talk about Author Hive in a minute, but a great platform. So I want to say thank you to you for really opening the door and providing so much insight, because that's a big reason I was able to get my book out. So I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll, your journey, and
well, that was a beautiful introduction. That pretty much sums up a lot of the things that I have been able to do. But I got into, backing up a little bit, I've always been a writer, poetry, music, short stories, just always, and then I became a journalist. And so I have that background as well. And then I knew that I had a book on the inside, but it just took forever to get out. It's like, I want to write the book. I don't know when, and just keep talking about it. And then the pandemic happened. And like many of you, I was at home and, staring at the wall, staring at my children. And I'm like, you know what? I think actually I saw something come across my my feed, and it was like, get your book out by September. And I was like, or December. And I was like, you know what? I need to go for it. It was September, right? Right as the pandemic was happening. And I was like, this is it. I'm going to go all in. I'm going to pay for whatever class it is and however it's going to come out. And so that really just gave me like the spark to really like push and go forward with publish my first book.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's talk about that time. So we're in the pandemic, and everybody is either struggling financially, mentally, spiritually. I think we were impacted in some way. Did you already have the idea for the book? Your first book is It's in You, a book for big dreamers. Did you have an idea for the book? Look at it? It's beautiful.
No, I didn't know. I think I was like dabbling with different ideas. But I always have been fascinated with the transformation of a caterpillar to a butterfly, because I believe that there's stories as a storyteller, and I see stories in nature, right? You see stories everywhere. Go to the grocery store, you'll find yourself a little story. And so just observing nature, that to me is a beautiful story. Like, wow, you start as this crawling critter, right? That most people are like, ugh. And then eventually, through this transformation, through this isolation, through this hard, difficult time, a working process, you then eventually become what you hope to be, is a beautiful butterfly, right? And I feel like we all can relate to that story in some aspect. So I've always just been fascinated with that. So then just translating that into kind of my own story, like connecting it back to my own story, and then how also can I transfer it for kids to understand. That's how I kind of came up with the entire process. And of course, kids love butterflies, kids love that kind of thing. So in the story, essentially is Ella, which is my main character. She finds this caterpillar. She is very connected to him and wants to help him achieve his dreams. And he has this dream of flying, but doesn't know how he's going to do that exactly, because a lot of us have this dream, but we don't know how we're going to get there. And in the story, he bumps into some other animals that don't quite believe that he's going to do what he says he's going to do. And to me, it's just the other people have called the animals the haters in the book. But in life, that it happens, right? It could be a parent sometimes that are not necessarily a hater, but just afraid of you stepping out on faith, afraid of you, Mom, I really want to be a host and I want to move to England. Like, oh no, you never know what it could be. It could be a teacher, a friend, whoever. And so that's kind of what the animals represent in the story. Just that, you never know where, a misdirection can come from, and you kind of have to stay strong and believe in who you are and what's inside of you, because it's in you. Yeah.
Beautiful. And it's so, first off, it's one of my favorite books. I got it as soon as I became, we kind of connected. And it's such a simple story, but it's so profound. And like you said, it can impact children. It can impact adults. It's such a theme that we carry throughout our life, which is a beautiful, beautiful story. So I was thinking as you were talking, and the pandemic happened, get your book out at a certain time, you have this story in your mind. What steps did you take? Because you have two books. So I'm going to ask you the difference between the first book and the second book. Because I'm sure that first book was a lot of learning, a lot of growing pains. So what was that process like for you, just figuring out what to do and how
Well, when I first started, like I said, I mentioned that I was in a writing class, and then I was working with someone that kind of promised, like, hey, we'll get your book out, and that didn't happen. And then the illustrations that they were showing me didn't like them. Like, if y'all saw them, you'd be like, oh no. So I had to literally fire everybody. I just, follow your instincts. Like, this doesn't feel like work that I will be proud of to be out. And so I had to, then I hopped into Facebook groups, and I was just searching for direction. A lot of, authors who are my friends now, they were very helpful, which is why I like to be helpful in return. Like, whenever I see a fellow author or someone is like, oh, how do I do this? How do I do that? I'm always jumping in the comments like, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you go about it. Need more coaching, hit me up, whatever it is. So I, jumped into these Facebook groups, and I don't know if my illustrator had posted that he was looking, but there's something that I saw in his work that I really liked. So I was like, this is my guy. So I, connected with him. He actually lives in Mexico. So that was we had to communicate, with the time difference and everything. But it was just kind of like a learn as I go, and really just doing research, which I always recommend, because I feel like a lot of the thing is, a lot of people get excited and they just want to be an author, but they don't do any of the research or I didn't know that I needed my own ISBN, and I didn't know that I needed, fill in the blank. So it's definitely important to do research, to ask questions, to invest in, in classes. If someone's already gone through Amazon ads, just take the class and pay for the class. Like, don't, Like, don't waste time,
Yeah.
don't waste money, don't get scammed by, whoever else may be out there. So you really have to do your due diligence. So I did make some mistakes, but I did a lot of research and really invested time in classes and courses and whatever it took to get better.
Mhm. Mhm. You said something that I really
Yeah.
appreciated was in the beginning you had to start over. You know what I mean? And you started, you had this great idea. I'm sure you were super, super excited, and it just wasn't going to plan because it's not something you would tie yourself to. And I really appreciate that because I've said in a previous
Yeah.
episode, our boys and girls deserve the best. You know what I mean? And we want to put work out there that looks great, that they can learn from, and that can change the course of their life. So I appreciate you sharing. It didn't start off perfect. You know, you had to, sometimes it goes great. Sometimes you got to start over and say, this is not it. I've spent a little money, but I'd rather have a good product
I
out there.
definitely want to,
So the first
you
book
want to
comes
make
out.
sure that this is something that your name is going to be on for the rest of, for the rest of your life. Your kids are going to see it, your legacy.
Yep.
And so don't, like I said, don't be in a haste or a rush. Like I just want to be an author. I just want to get it out there. But if you're going to do it, for me, I like to do things, just to do it well the first time, right?
Yeah. Same. So you do it well. I mean, the book comes out, it gets stellar reviews, it does well. A second book. Were you planning on writing 2 books? How did the second book kind of evolve? And was it an easier process the second time around?
The second book is called Sibling Love, and I am a mom now
Yeah.
3 as of
So cute.
8 months ago. I now had a third baby. But so Sibling Love, this is my son and my daughter, and that one came because just from watching my kids, right? But I did kind of have that also in the pipeline. Like I knew, like I have to write a book about this at some point. Just watching them because I just thought it was so like interesting. Like one minute they're, in love and do you want some of my Cheerios? Yes, and everything's great. And literally like 5 minutes later, it's like it's like World War II. I got to break on.
Rip them
And
apart.
I come from a background where I have siblings, but I didn't grow up with them. Like my mom had another child. He's 13, so I kind of feel like more like his mom than his sister. So in my immediate household, it was just me. I was not fighting or anything. And so to watch people like fight and love and fight and make up, and I'm like, oh, this is what sibling love is all about. And I knew that people like everywhere could relate to it. So I was like, oh, I have to write a book about this. And for the second book, it was a totally different process. I actually did a Kickstarter. So the first book, I funded myself, paid for everything myself out of pocket, and went straight to like Amazon KDP for the printing. And then, of course, after learning, the different processes and the best way to print and like do offset printing. And I saw a lot of people in one of those groups that I was in doing Kickstarter. So I was like, oh, that's an ideal way to actually, print books overseas and get like a bulk order. That way you can do whatever, if you want to sell them to a school, if you want to sell them to a library, if you want to, whatever it is, you can, do whatever you like with the books versus having to rely on Amazon. So it was a total different process the second time around.
Yeah, and I appreciate how you mentioned crowdfunding. So Kickstarter is a platform for people. And welcome to everyone who just joined. You're just in time for StoryTime with Sharifa Anozie. And she's telling us a little bit about her experience as a children's book author and her success in doing that. But crowdfunding, so you can go, there's different ways to get your book out there. You really have to find what works best for you. And doing your research, as she mentioned earlier, whether it's getting your book out quicker and understanding that Amazon KDP takes a very big chunk of your proceeds, or like you said, finding the printing houses, selling it from, your own home and being in charge of that. They both have their pros and cons, I think, but there are options out there for you 1,000%. Okay. So book 1 is out, book 2 is out. Arthur High.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
So as I mentioned, when I first started, I had a lot of people helping me. And so, just in my nature, I like to help people. I should have been a teacher. I think, that's actually my grandparents were teachers. So it's definitely, but I just had a desire to help other authors. And actually it would not even just a desire, but I found myself like doing it. Like my DMs was just flooded. Like, how do I do this? How do I do that? So eventually I was like, you know what? I have to find a way to flip this into something else. So that's how the Author Hive got created. And really Clubhouse was what really sparked it, because when Clubhouse popped on the scene, one of my friends was like, oh, you will love Clubhouse. Because I'm not, like, people know this is probably the first time I've gone live, and I don't do live.
Thank you for coming on the show there.
But I did, just because also I have a lot going on, like 3 kids. Somebody could be somebody might throw something in this video. I don't know, but just when you're on Clubhouse, it's like you can't see anything. It's just my voice, and so it was a little much easier for me to just hop on there, hop in the groups, and it was a lot of fun. All the authors came as well to help me host it. So the Author Hive was born because of Clubhouse. And then we also have the Instagram, and then we also have a Facebook page, and it's really just a space for, I like to post like just the same things I kind of post on my personal page. So inspiration, like I love authors I don't that are doing out of the box things, because I know that that's what it takes to really be successful. Like, you can't be just sitting behind the screen like, oh, who, like, copy somebody else, or, you have to really think outside the box for what works with your book, like your niche, your target audience. Like that's what's going to put you ahead. For me, just to back up a little, with the first book, I had sent my book to Tabitha Brown, how it became an Amazon bestseller. And initially I have another company where I sell jewelry, and it's a faith-based jewelry line. And so I thought she would love that, because, that's in her, again, she's my target audience when it comes to the jewelry. And at the last minute, I decided to put the book inside of the package. And I was like, oh, by the way, I'm an author. And I did not think, she has older kids. I didn't think that would be anything importance to her. And then like 2 weeks later, after I said that, my Instagram was like bing, 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 bing. And I was like, what's going on? Then she sent me a message, and she was like, just read your book. You're so inspiring. Much love to you. Continue, inspiring, something like that she said. And she followed me. And I was like, oh my God. And, literally the next day my book went Amazon bestseller. And so again, it's just kind of like thinking. And then when I tell people that, they're like, what's her PO box? But I'm like, listen, she might not be your audience. Like, you have to find the book, the person that's connected to your book, right? And then the more I know about Tabitha's story now, I'm like, oh, I understand. Like, her story is really like a rags to riches, almost like the caterpillar to the butterfly. Like she was, trying to be an actress and doing all these things that people probably told her no. It's very similar to things that are happening in my book. So if you send her a book about cats and, things that are not relatable to her, it won't hit. It won't do as well, right? So that's why I really caution authors to really just think outside the box. Think about what works for you and your brand. And I've seen, just a lot of authors out here killing it and really doing things that are just like next level. And that's really what inspires me and what I love to share on the Author Hive.
Okay. I love the Author Hive. Is such a great resource, guys. So if you haven't been, please check it out. It's just encouraging and positivity, if nothing else. So we appreciate that. So you spoke of Tabitha Brown. Great things happening. The book shot to #1 overnight, which is awesome. I think that's every author's kind of dream there. Was that the highlight of your author career? Has there been a highlight for you, or a standout moment where you're just like, this is worth it?
Man, there's been so many. I always say, like, you just never know where your book will go or where it can take you. My book has literally gone places that I probably will never go. The Duchess of York in England, she read the book. It was on Grey's Anatomy. Yes.
It was Grey's Anatomy.
It was in the last scene. Jesse actually chose the book. It was the last scene with, is it Deborah Allen? Deborah? Yeah, she had she was reading it to her granddaughter. So they
Debbie Allen.
And so it literally has just gone so many places, and I'm like, to me, you know, I'm a woman of faith, and I'm like, it's gotta be God, because sometimes I'm like, I'm not even doing any of this. It's other people that are like, hey, I'd like to put your book, or, you know, it just found its way. But the highlight for me always is the child that I meet that's like, I've never met an author before, right? And I'm their first author that they have ever met, laid eyes on. I've had so many of those like positive moments, and for me, that's worth like $1 million in my bank, right? Because I just know that I know the impact of that. I know how special it is. I know that there's some things that like I'll never forget. I'll never forget my first teacher. I'll never forget my first author, right? So to be that person that's making a positive impact, that to me is the most important thing.
It's heartwarming. Like, it just feels good. It's
like,
still
can you
good
sign
work.
the book? And I'm like they got you feel like Beyonce or something. Like,
I mean, you are like Beyonce. You done fired your whole team.
yeah.
We love Beyonce. Shout out to Beyonce. But it's a beautiful thing, and I think it's a big picture. So yeah, we want to sell books. Yeah, it can be a source of income, but the reality is, a book, like I said, can change the trajectory of someone's life. Seeing an author that looks like yourself is so important, and that's why we love Just in Time for Storytime, because we're building this community for everyone. You know, for everyone to learn from, see our perspectives, to share, and to do that. So we love to hear it. I got one last question for you. Two really. It's twofold. What's one piece of advice you would give to authors? And then what's one piece of advice you would give to children?
To authors, man, that's kind of broad. Like, there's so many ways I could go with that one. Again, I would say back to the research, to really just, one thing I wish I had known, like, so the other day, my kids, they have Scholastic book fair going on at their school. So whenever I see books, my eyes are always like, you know, and even not just books. Again, I'm always paying attention. Like, I pay attention to the way Target runs their new ads, or how just different companies are rolling things out. I'm always, you know, paying attention to that type of thing and seeing how I can relate it back to my author brand and my, you know, my business. And so, again, research, and really just, I wish someone had told me like to do a series, because when I look around like at the Scholastic Book Fair, those are the books that all the kids are eating up. The Dog Man and Piggy and Gerald, and you know, all those books that have multiple, like, they can basically connect with the character and come back again and again and again, and that's what children really like. For me, it's like, okay, I these are like one-off books that I just had to get out there. But so it's taking me so long for my next book, in case anyone's wondering, because A, I'm a perfectionist, and then B, I'm over here thinking of like, okay, what is that? What's my series? What's going to be my thing? And it's a lot harder to commit to like 6 books than it is like, let me just put out one, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, if you really take time to like do the research, and I would say also like focus on a brand. Like, I don't know if you're gonna have McKinney on here, but she is totally killing it. She is awesome, and she has really like elevated to me like the business of author, like branding. And you know, I think I don't know if her initial plan was to like take it to dolls and cards and stuff, but she launched her book at FEO Schwartz, which is amazing. But I don't know if she sees it, but I definitely see like her brand going bigger places. And that's when I say brand, like, we can't just focus on like one book, because one book do it, right? You really have to make a brand. Like, think of Harry Potter, like that is a brand, like that is can grow like to games and this and that. So really think outside the box and think about the bigger picture. Yeah.
That's beautiful. That you're dropping gems. Everybody's been dropping gems on these episodes. And then advice you give to children. I mean, you're a mother, 3 beautiful children, and congratulations again on the baby.
Advice to children, enjoy it. Enjoy being a kid, right? My son is always like, when I become an adult, we're like, calm down. Like, you don't want to get there, right? it's stuff that our parents used to say, like, you don't want to be, you know, you have enough time to become an adult, but really enjoy childhood, because, you know, that's when those are the best memories. It's the best times. It's, you know, it's when you have the most fun, like being an adult, if we're keeping it real, like it has challenges. It's fun too. It seems fun to a kid. But being a child, like, you know, that's where my best memories come from, to write stories, and where I've been inspired from. So I really say just enjoy the time being a kid, and really go in the yard and run around, and, you know, really, you know, dive into all the things that you can while you can.
Yeah. I love it. That's a perfect conclusion to the show. I know you said you don't do lives, but thank you so much for coming on Just in Time for Storytime.
This is awesome. Let everyone know where they can find you. Everything. The cards are like sending me back, because I'll send you a picture when I was a little girl, and I actually had my own talk show, like from, I think I was in like 5th grade, and I had the little cards. I was like, it's so inspired by like Oprah, Ricky Lake, like those were my like go-to. So I have the cards. I was like, he's doing it. This is what I'm talking about. You doing it.
Yeah. Tell everyone where they can find me
right here on Instagram. This is my preferred social media avenue of choice, at Sharifa_Anozie. I'm also available at my website, which is SharifaAnozie.com. And wherever books are sold. Christmas is coming up. Make sure y'all go get the books. Oh, bam.
Done.
Yeah.
Done and done.
Yes, I will be back.
When you come back. Okay. It's coming back. Well, thank you so much for coming on. We can't wait for that. And like I said, this is a community. So if you ever need support or help, please feel free to reach out to me. I mean, you've been doing the thing. But if you need any support, I got you back.
Bye.
All right. Take care. Just in time for story time. Another wonderful, wonderful episode. Thank you to everyone who's joining, who's watching, who's commenting, whether you're watching this on Instagram or YouTube. So many helpful tips she just provided. So many nuggets there on how to get your book out, why we do the work that we're doing, and the importance of children's literacy. Again, this is a community, whether you're looking for your next book, whether you want to start writing a book, that's what we're all about here. So thank you again for coming in. We'll be back Sunday. We're going live again with a brand new guest, brand new stories. You're just in time for story time. Take care, guys. See you soon.